Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. This is Catherine with Zen 7, and I want to talk to you about consciousness and some specific details associated to the study of consciousness. So let's jump in. I think first and foremost, we have to describe consciousness. Simply put, consciousness is awareness. We look at it from a subjective perspective, and we're also looking at it from an objective perspective. Subjective really means anything associated with our personal viewpoint. So feelings, opinions, all of those can be categorized in the subjective field. And then objective, which is a collective perspective. The sky is blue, or our world is round. Perhaps an overarching objective from a political stance or the like. But the real question, I think, is how does one come to an understanding of consciousness, and how do we look at the world around us through a consciousness lens? And one thing I want to bring up is called spiral dynamics. What's really cool about spiral dynamics is essentially you can track where someone's entire being lies. So throughout history, they have been able to create consciousness markers, or in other words, they've been able to create a set of values, beliefs, culture, social standards, everything that makes up someone's existence and the way in which they show up in the world has been tracked from the beginning of time up until now, which is the newest consciousness we're talking about, that's referred to as integral. But if we were to start and looking back at a historical perspective, the way in which growth happens in consciousness is a spiral. And so you have thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. So basically what that is saying is each level of consciousness is a reaction to the specific world problems and the solutions one takes in order to get over those issues in the world, okay? So I'm gonna give you a couple examples. One super obvious level of consciousness is going to be modern consciousness. And they literally refer to it as modern/industrial. Everyone, I think, has a decent grasp on what modern consciousness is. Even if you may not think you do, you probably do, because this is the biggest conversation currently in younger generations, because it has everything to do with individualism, okay? The reason why modern consciousness has everything to do with individualism is because the previous consciousness, which is referred to as the traditional consciousness, had to do with the collective. Again, we're going back to spiral dynamics. We have a thesis, an antithesis, and a synthesis. So as the spiral moves upward, it's going to, let's just say for common's sake, we're in the middle. That is going to shift aggressively to one side, and then people will be reacting to that, so it's going to shift to the opposite, okay? So traditional consciousness was all about the collective, religion, all of those things. It's shifting hard, which brings us to modern, which is individualism, power, improvement, industrialization, exploitation, all of the things that the younger generation is super concerned with nowadays. And that is why it is super popular for companies that are making their way to the top to be more eco-friendly, to care more about the collective, to care more than just, about glamour, but we can see it's still very, very prevalent. So this kind of gives you a generalized idea of the different levels, and I would love to get into those levels a little bit further, but just a fun way to take a look at what I'm studying in consciousness and why we have these large, massive shifts. And a little fun fact here, currently in the world, we are seeing some serious uprising, okay? We're encountering a lot of problems and we are feeling a crisis. And this crisis is on a lot of different levels, and I'm not going to continue to point out the specifics on it. But when crisis hits, this is going to gear up, again, that shift in consciousness. Remember, we are thesis anti, and then we synthesize. We combined both of them for the betterment of evolution. And that is what this is all about. Till next time, thanks for watching.